Okay guys, as promised, today I am going to go through the exercises that I created and posted in the last video about how to take something that inspires you and actually draw something out of it that you can use. My topic is going to be horror movies. So this should get interesting. All right, let's go. Okay, so with horror movies as our topic, it's pretty broad. Horror movies. Now, how would I define horror movies? They are an art form of entertainment. Horror movies are some of the oldest film and cinema ever made, to be quite honest. Some of the earliest films, many of the earliest films were horror movies. What does that say about us as a culture? I love it. They tend to be scary, dark, creepy. They can be gross, and they can vary widely in quality. So there are some really wonderful horror movies that are make you think, gorgeously filmed, think like The Shining and The Thing. So they can be works of art, and they can be absolute schlock and just junk for entertainment's sake. And they can be funny. And then of course you've got your B films, which can be great fun as well. So my definition is pretty surface. It's just literally what they are. Okay, so now we're going to go into my brainstorming for horror movies. Horror movies. Is that better? Yeah, that's better. Okay, so horror movies. They typically are dark in look and tone. Look and tone. The color palettes are typically darker. Usually there's red involved, blood. Often there can be sickly shades of green, grays and blacks, of course. And I noticed that some tend to have like a mono-duochromatic kind of overall approach to the look. They can be grainy in texture, dirty, grungy. That kind of goes together. They often include some kind of a monster, some force or villain. And that can be human. Think your serial killer slasher flicks and heck, Silence of the Lambs, of course. Humans, you've got ghosts that don't have the physical forms, ghosts and apparitions. Poltergeists. It could be aliens. It could be killer robots. It can be killer computers and AI. They're classic monsters. Your Draculas and Frankensteins and Swamp Things. They can be grotesque. They can be rooted in mythology. And I think they can also be rooted in religion. Demons and devils and things. Atmosphere. Often it can be, atmosphere is the most important part of a horror movie, is it not? So maybe alien landscapes, spaceships, futuristic, whatever, abandoned buildings. They could be ruins, basements, storms, sometimes the most unexpected. How about Chopping Mall, which takes place in a shopping mall, except that there's killer robots stalking these poor kids that decided to party all night. So it's taking something as innocuous as a shopping mall or whatever and making it a place of terror is kind of fun. horror movies can absolutely be gross. You got your body horror, which is, I think, fun. It's usually weird. It can be torture, like torture porn, which I absolutely hate. I'm not about it at all. Blood and guts. And it can be very seriously approached, or it can be goofy in its approach. So it depends on the tone of the movie and theoretically what the filmmaker intends, although sometimes things don't work the way they mean, which happens in all movies. Okay, what's fun about them? They're fun. I'm going to write that as a category. I know it's subjective, but it's the getting scared or adrenaline that we experience with them. Okay, I'm probably not spelling some words correctly. I count on autocorrect a lot. It's really terrible. So don't judge me. Don't post about it, because I know my handwriting's terrible. My spelling leaves a lot to be desired. Okay, fun as an art form. Let's get back to this. Spooks. I mean, why do kids love Halloween? Spooks and unexpected things. Oh, I can't write. Unexpected. Jump scares. Too many are not a good thing, but they can be fun if it's done well. And just getting you out of your comfort zone a little bit. A lot of horror is based on what we fear. I mean, they're about fear in general, but oftentimes they're based on real fear, such as your fear of the dark, fear of sickness, or aliens. I mean, let's take both of those and put that into Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and fear of the unknown, fear of physical pain, fear of death, of course, and also maybe think about fear of your soul, going back to the religious films such as The Exorcist. Fear of spiders, snakes, those real things that, snakes, Jaws movies, Anaconda, films like that. And I think fear of evil. And that can be part of the monsters or just the humans, the Michael Myers, the things that you don't understand, but their motivation seems to have no explanation outside of it's just evil. Okay, how about what it makes you feel? Feelings. You have so many feelings. Of course, again, fear. It's extremes, typically, when you're talking about horror films. They can be funny. They can be disturbing. Of course, gross. They can make you think. We can learn things about ourselves. What else? What feelings do you get from horror films? Just, mindless entertainment. Escapism. When it comes to film, there's the acts, the parts. So you've got usually a location, a setup, a backstory, conflict, climax, and the resolution. You think that's enough? I think that's enough. Switch to my red pen. Okay, so if I had to pick maybe 2 or 3 of these topics to expand upon, to work with, I think I want to talk about getting the feeling of fun. I have it kind of weird here. Let me fix that. Fun. I want to go into body horror, because I think that can be weird and fun. Me handwriting stuff. Anyway, make you think. All right. Fresh piece of paper. Horror makes you think. Fun. Body horror. Okay, let's start with body horror, because that's going to be kind of a weird one to expand upon, I think. It's gross. Unexpected, typically. Say I get a hand. I have a hand, and an eyeball grows out of my hand. That would be unexpected and weird, and that's absolutely body horror. Ever seen the movie Society? Don't watch it if you have a sensitive stomach. It often is ridiculous and absurd. And there's just something about things happening with your or somebody else's body that aren't supposed to be there or work that way, that is just that inherent, I think, very base fear. I think it can be exceptionally creative if done well. How about horror makes you think? When it comes to the entertainment aspect of movies and the escapism, this would be the other side of that. Okay, think about lessons in horror movies. I think that is absolutely something that can come across, either like social, environmental, even religious, if you're into that. Moral, absolutely moral lessons. Oftentimes, I brought up before excesses and extremes. Usually they go someplace that isn't real. So it's something that you kind of have to wrap your head around. And there's often a lot of metaphor. If it's a well thought out movie, there absolutely can be a lot of metaphor, and it's a safe place to explore our fears. I do think that fear is one of the motivators for people to act absolutely horrifically. Usually, if people who are otherwise reasonable, decent people are doing awful things, there's some level of fear involved, and it makes us act selfishly and look out for our own best interests and forget that we're part of a broader society, of a community. So perhaps having a safe place to explore it and make it a release and a form of entertainment is a little bit good for us, so that we can detach from our basest instincts every now and again when we need to. All right, fun. What makes horror fun? Kind of ramping over with the last point about a safe place to explore fears. There's this theory of the beast within. It's a psychological theory about why people enjoy horror movies, that we all have underneath the facade of our civilization and us knowing how to behave in society, that we really are just animals with base instincts and base desires and motivations. The idea that horror movies kind of tap into that for us is where some people think that the enjoyment comes from. I think that might be one part of it. But there is the element of it that is, as I said before, an art form, which can absolutely be fun. It can be parody on us. It can be social commentary. I think that actually goes back to where it makes you think. I'm just going with my brain here. We'll see where it takes me. So under fun, though, absolutely thrills. Not only can it be a safe place to explore our fears, but it's a safe place to experience our terrors. Because there's no consequences. We can experience these scary things without actual fear of it. Like, it's not actually going to happen from us. So there's a separation. So consequences are none. Safe terrors. Practice safe terrors, everybody. There is the dopamine effect of the startle response. There's like the fun of figuring it out. What are the rules of the horror movie? Because almost any good horror movie has like the context of the bad guy functions or monster functions in this scenario and has these weaknesses. And so there's this way that you can potentially defeat it or get away from it. Will the protagonist survive? Will they figure out those rules and be able to overcome them? Does the bad guy get it in the end? I think that's a pretty good start, but I might do a little bit more, a little bit of research and a little bit of thinking on this, because now I need to take these items and think about how I can incorporate something of that into my work. So I'm going to take some time. I'm going to think on it. I'm going to do a little Googling, and I'll meet you back here later. What? I'm still thinking. So I spent some time getting things done around the house and thinking about my topics and doing some research on them. Fascinating psychology out there about why people enjoy horror movies. But that's for another time and topic. That's not really what this is about ultimately. So I'm looking at my 3 elements, and I need to look at them outside of the context of horror movies and think about them in terms of my own work and how I can incorporate them. I like the element of things that make you think. And I kind of like the idea of combining that in the context of the body horror stuff, because the body horror things can be gross and disturbing, but they can also just be absurd and something out of place. Things that aren't where they're meant to be, something that's missing that shouldn't, like, just taking things out of their normal realm of what you expect. Giving you the unexpected when it comes to especially biology, but otherwise, I do tend to paint a lot of figures. I look at things through the storybook of the human perspective for the most part. So I want to kind of combine those 2 elements into an element of unexpected, specifically things being either where they don't belong or missing or something along those lines. So that's part of it. But the other concept that I'm actually going to attack as well at the same time, because I don't want to just make gross and disturbing stuff. I want it to be still with an element of lightness and fun. Like I've always, from college days, been a natural kind of proponent of the creepy cute. Like something that's kind of like, oh, that's cute. Oh, but it's sort of weird too. So that's really what I'm about. So I want to combine that unexpected weirdness with some kind of maybe cuteness. I don't know if that's really the right word, because I don't do a lot of cute specifically these days, but maybe that's in terms of being more colorful, like having a light touch, maybe a little humor behind it. Humor, yes, that's a good one. So that's what I'm thinking. Taking things, making something unexpected in maybe a creepy kind of a way, weird or creepy, but making it colorful, cheerful, or a little humorous. I think I can definitely work with this. I'm going to do some sketching and see what I can come up with. All right, I think I'm going to cut it close here. I'm going to do another video coming up where I'm actually going to maybe show you some of what I've come up with out of this brainstorming, because I went from talking about horror movies to deciding on doing lighthearted creepy things in my own work with some specific ideas about how that could happen. So that actually gives me a lot of ideas to play with and kind of opens up something that I wasn't thinking about specifically before. It was sort of something I liked but didn't ever really put into terms. And taking something that I love, which is horror movies, and breaking it down to its elements has helped me to extract what it is specifically that I like about that I can utilize myself. Sorry, Mike. All right, like I said, next episode, I'll have at least something to show you, either sketches or painting. We'll keep going from there. If you have tried this at all, or if you think you might try it or have some ideas, let me know, because I think that this is a great way to work past creative block, artist block, writer's block, anything along those lines. It's hard to get out of those quandaries and to at least have some kind of framework set up that you can work in to explore some new ideas and things that you could do to knock through that block. I mean, it's a great tool to have in your back pocket. I hope this is helpful, and I'll see you next time. Stay sane, make things. Bye, guys.